Hey, Kevin here from DIYDork.com. Today I want to show you how I built a really simple and low budget cable railing for the back of our house. So check this out. This turned out really nice. Alright, so here's where I'm going to build the really simple cable railing system. And it's just the stairs that go down to our basement door. And when we bought the house, I had really terrible, old, cracked, baby blue vinyl siding that we got rid of. And then it also had this really cheesy metal railing that was like loosely attached to the house, and then it sat in that hole there and that hole there. And then they just had some white lattice, some white vinyl lattice just zip tied to it. It was a really terrible fence. So we tore that down and have been living on the edge here pretty dangerously for the last year. So now that it's a lot better weather, I decided to build one. So the actual railing itself, I'm going to keep really simple. I'm just going to use some 4x4 posts. They need to be city code here at least 36 inches tall, so post there, and I'm going to cover up that hole right there with one in the middle, and then one right here as well. Now this whole concrete thing here is about 12 feet long, so when I top the post, I'm just going to use a 2x4 that's 12 feet long. I might have to trim it just a little bit. But anyway, I'll build one here and then one over there, so it'll be just a flat top and then another one in between the posts for a little bit of support. Alright, so then for the cable railing, I'm using, I'll show it to you later, but it's some stainless 1/8 inch cable that I'm going to attach with some really simple hardware that's a little clunkier but has kind of a cool industrial look. I know you can buy really fancy systems, and I looked into them, man, they were really expensive. So this is a more low budget take on it. So anyway, I'll get started on this. I think it's going to turn out pretty cool. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is start working on the railing, and when I did a Google search for our city codes, I found that the railing needs to be at least 36 inches tall, and then the spacing between spindles or cables or whatever needs to be 4 inches. So that was the two dimensions I have to be careful about. Alright, so what I did is I bought a 6-footer 4x4 and then a 12-footer 4x4, and I chopped them down to 36 inches because I only need 6. And they were pretty rough and they had printing on them, so I just ran my palm sander over them real quick with a 120 grit, got rid of the printing, and then also just kind of smooth them out. They'll accept stain a little better, and then some of the corners were like, some of these edges were really rough, so I smoothed them out, and just to keep them from splintering up too much. And I think it'll just make it look a little nicer. So now what I got to do is figure out how to attach them to the concrete. Alright, so to actually attach the post to the concrete, I did a lot of research and I found different brackets. Some of them you could pick up at the store, some of them had to be special ordered, but I didn't like any of them. They were all like way too clunky, way too industrial looking. It looked like something that'd be hidden underneath a big backyard deck or something like that. But something here that you walk out and it's front and center, I needed something that looked a little better. So I actually found these brackets online. I don't remember where I got them. I'll look it up and put a link in the description, but they actually had 2 different plates. And anyway, I mean, it should be pretty self-explanatory, but this plate right here, you take the 4 inner holes and you screw it to the bottom of the 4x4. Then once it's all screwed together, you lay it down here on your concrete in the shadow, and then I'm gonna have to drill 4 holes, and it'll mount with some Tapcon screws. And then basically the same thing with this plate. It will slide over that, cover it, then the 4 upper holes will just screw to the sides of the posts, and to just keep it from wobbling around, keep it nice and sturdy. And then the same thing with the outer holes there too. I'll have to drill through the concrete and hold it down with Tapcon screws. So what I'll do is, like I mentioned before, I'm going to cover up that old hole, and I'll put one at the edge, and I'll bring it away from the house just a little bit so I can actually work around in there. So I'll do that next. Alright, so to install my first plate, I'm just going to kind of center it over the hole, and then you probably can't see it in the video, but I actually snapped a chalk line. And what I did is I used orange chalk, which I thought would be awesome, but it is terrible. You can't see it on anything, so blue would be way better. But anyway, I measured the width of this, and then I centered this on there, and then snapped that chalk line so that I can line them all up, so that way my railing will be nice and straight. Even if this concrete has a little bow to it or whatever, the railing will be nice and straight. So anyway, just line it up to there, and then I think I'm going to slap some duct tape or something on there just to kind of hold it in place. And then I'm going to drill just some little starter holes in the 4 corners, just little divots just to let me know where to drill the holes, and I can pull it away and go all the way in. Alright, so when I contacted the company about these plates, they told me I could get away with some 1/4 inch by 2 3/4 Tapcon style screws. And when I read the package, it said I need a 3/16 masonry drill bit, so that's what I bought. Then when I read the back of this, it said not to use it in a hammer drill. So I'm just going to use my handy dandy cheapy $20 electric drill and hope this works. So fingers crossed that I'm not going to snap any bits here. Well, you know what? That regular drill was doing diddly squat. That was going to take all day, so I just went ahead and got my hammer drill, and this is working a lot better. Check this out. That's way better. Alright, so now that all the holes are drilled in the concrete, I'm just screwing on the plates here, and the instructions said to use some 3-inch long number 10 screws, so that's what I got here. They're a little thicker than your regular decking screws, so anyway, should hold nice and tight. So now I can go ahead and pop these on the concrete and start installing them with the Tapcon screws. Alright, so now that the plates are on the bottom of the post and all my holes are drilled out in the concrete, I can start to install them, but I found I've had a lot of problems, and there's a couple things I want to show you that went wrong. Okay, first of all, these Tapcon screws. I know these are like the house brand version, but they're pretty much the same, and I've had the actual Tapcons before, and they had the exact same issue. In this particular concrete, it's so old and hardened and full of gravel that these things will not drive down. I'll show you what happens. They go so far and then it just stops. That's it. And I know from experience that if I use my little wrench to try to do it, I'll actually just torque that thing right off and it's just going to snap. So instead of bothering with this, I'll show you what I'm going to use instead. Alright, so instead of wasting my time with the Tapcon screws, I'm just going to go old school with these concrete wedge anchors. Now I got these and they're 1/4 inch by 3 and 1/4 inch long. That's the shortest ones I could find in a big pack of 15. I had to buy several bags. So anyway, these are working really well. Now the main issue with these is that since they're 1/4 inch, I have to use a bigger drill bit. So with those Tapcon screws, your drill bit was just barely smaller than the screw itself, so I was using 3/16, and I found that if you remember earlier, I said that the drill bit in the back said that you couldn't use it in a hammer drill, and that's because I bought the wrong bits in the first place. These are rotary masonry bits, not hammer drill masonry bits. So it worked, but it's not the way to go. Alright, so for the 1/4 inch, I bought the right thing here. This one is for hammer drill, and this thing is really nice and beefy. So I'll go ahead, open up all these holes, make them bigger, and then when I drop the anchor in there, it basically put it in. It's going to be a really tight fit. You have to hammer it, and then this little wedge down there, once you start to tighten up the nut, it starts pulling on this and it expands and holds really tight. Alright, now before I can just drop on these upper plates and you know, screw in or drill in new holes and then screw in the anchors, I actually have to open up the holes because my anchors are just a little bit too fat to fit through there. So I'll just go ahead and use my fat drill bit here to open them up. Then I'll drop it down, and then I'll get in my concrete drill bit again, drill down the holes, and I should be able to drop the anchors down in there and tighten them back up. Alright, so there we go, all the posts are in, and that part was kind of a pain in the butt, and it ended up taking all day, so today's a new day. But I just had to shim them just very slightly just to get them to line up. So all I did was unbolted them and put a single washer underneath 2 of those lag bolts, and it helped us lean it in whichever direction I needed to go. And they're in now, so now they're nice and tight. The one thing I'm not crazy about now that I think about it is those anchor bolts that I found are just regular zinc coated, that kind of chrome looking stuff, and they are definitely going to rust on me eventually. I wish I could have found some stainless ones, but they didn't have them, so I worked with these. So probably what I'll do when I finish all this up is I'll get some of my a little can of Rust-Oleum and probably just touch them up, because I don't really like how they look anyway. I don't really like that chrome. I like them to just kind of disappear, so I'll paint them black, and then that should help kind of keep them from rusting for too long. So now what I'm going to do is mess with building the top rail. As you can see, I just have a 2x4 here. It's 12 feet long. I'll have to cut it off evenly with the front here, and just make sure it fits all real nice and tight. But probably before I even set this top one on, what I'll do is actually put one underneath that's on its side for support. So I'll do that next. Alright, and check it out. I have the wood structure finished for our rails out here. It turned out really nice. I just kept it really simple with the 4x4 post and 2x4s up top. And as you can see, I just kind of screwed it all together so it's nice and sturdy now, but it could easily come apart if I ever needed to fix something or replace something or whatever. And it turned out pretty awesome. Now, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that I told you when I looked up our city codes that a rail needed to be at least 36 inches tall, and then space between spindles or cables or whatever needs to be 4 inches. So when I cut these 4x4s, I originally had cut them at 36 inches, but then when I did a little more math, I discovered I needed to go a little shorter to make it work out evenly. So what I did was I cut them at about 35.5 inches. That way my rail is still over 36 inches, or right at 37, but then the space underneath where all my cables are going to go can be evenly divided by 4s, because the bottom of my 2x4 right there is at 32 inches. So that's what I'm going to move on to next. The meat and potatoes of why you're even watching this video, the cable rails.